How's it going, guys? Today I want to talk to you about the 8 rules that you should be following if you're investing in your 20s and 30s. This is a sort of letter to my younger self of all the things that I have learned since I started investing and all the things that I wish I had known at the time. However, my journey with investing hasn't actually been a very typical one because I've actually spent the best part of 10 years managing money for other people. And over that time, as you can imagine, I've learnt a hell of a lot. So I've put together these 8 rules that I wish I had followed since the very beginning. But hopefully you can learn from these and you can apply them from the off. Number 1, take ownership of your own financial education. Although we learn a lot of very useful things at school, like long division and trigonometry, they kind of miss the point when it comes to more practical things, like how to use a credit card properly, what to mortgage, or even what to pension. But ultimately, this is the basic information that we need to survive in this very complex financial world in which we live. And as it happens, financial education is more important than ever, because unlike our parents, who got extremely lucky with pretty much everything, where they were working for companies for 30 or 40 years, they wouldn't change jobs, and that company would ultimately just look after them in retirement by paying them a big fat pension. That, surprise, surprise, doesn't apply to us, and we're left to fend for ourselves. Now, I know this may seem hard to believe right now when you're sort of scrabbling around from paycheck to paycheck, but it's very likely that there will become a stage in your life where you are managing hundreds of thousands of pounds that's invested in the stock market. Now, if you don't believe me, just think about this. The average full-time salary in the UK is 35k. And because of the new auto-enrollment rules, you are required as a minimum to be putting 8% of that into a pension every year. Now, if you're employed, this will be happening automatically unless you've opted out of the scheme. And that 8% equates to £2,800 a year. Now, on top of that, that money is going to be invested inside your pension. And if it grows at a fairly conservative 6% a year, after 30 years of paying pension contributions and that growth on top of it, you'd be left with over £200,000. Now, that's £200,000 that you are going to have to decide how to manage and invest. Now, you could, of course, just delegate it to someone like me, but you really don't need to do that because it's actually not that hard. Although you may be sitting there thinking, but I've only got £100, I've only got £1,000, what difference does it make? That is actually a really, really good thing because you can use this time right now to learn and invest in your own knowledge and experience so that when you do actually have a significant amount of money, you know exactly what you're doing and you're not going to make any stupid mistakes. Number 2, talk about money. In the UK, we are indoctrinated to believe that talking about money is a bad thing. And I personally think that this is one of the most self-sabotaging things that we could have done to ourselves. One of the main reasons why we have been able to come so far as a human race and live in a world where we have YouTube and microphones and iPhones is not only because we've been able to learn from our own mistakes, but it's because we've been able to learn from the mistakes of others and the thousands of generations that have come before us, which means that we are able to build on the knowledge and the experience of others so that we don't all have to start from square one. But when it comes to money, for some reason, we have developed this culture of not wanting to talk about it. So we're not sharing our mistakes. We're not sharing the things that we've learned along the way, which ultimately leaves every single individual, every single one of us to have to make our own headway through this complex financial world. And we all end up making the same mistakes over and over again. Just think about this. Do you know how to eat a balanced diet and how to get Beachbody ready if you really wanted to? Yes, of course you do. And the reason why is because it's plastered all over fucking Instagram. Now, imagine a world in which we suddenly started sharing financial tips in the same way that we do fitness tips. I mean, yeah, sure, it's not going to make for the most entertaining of news feeds, But imagine what a difference that would make to our worlds and our ability to use money as a tool that it really is. So this is by far one of my biggest tips. You need to find somebody or a group of people that you can share this journey of financial education and learning with. Now, this could be your partner, this could be a mate, it could be a group of mates, it even could be an online community. And the important thing is to just talk about what you've learned, talk about the mistakes that you've made, and talk about the plans that you've got in the future. Not only is this going to allow you to collectively learn a hell of a lot more and avoid everybody making exactly the same mistakes, it's also going to keep you accountable to your savings goals. I'm sure that you know, whenever you've set yourself a goal and you've just kept it to yourself, it's sometimes very, very hard to stick to, and you often find yourself slipping. But as soon as you tell somebody else that goal, or you put it up online when you're saving money for a charity, you're running an event on Strava, suddenly you become much more accountable, and it's much harder to make that slip. So make sure that you're not only sharing your knowledge and experience, but also your plans and strategies and goals. Number 3, don't listen to your parents. What do you mean? Didn't you just tell us to talk about money? Well, yes, but bear with me on this one. Last week, I made a post on an online community on Reddit called UK Personal Finance, which is basically a big community of people that are interested in personal finance and money. And I asked them, what is the best or the worst money advice that you've been given from your parents? In fact, I want to ask you the same question and hear about your experience. Have you ever been given any good or bad advice from your parents? Why don't you let me know in the comments below? As you can see, this post got quite a lot of traction. At the moment, it's sitting on over 600 replies. Now, unfortunately, it seems like the only thing that most people's parents have given them is actually an example of what not to do with money. And for the most part, people have been left to educate themselves with books and the internet, which is a massive shame. But we also saw some examples of some parents giving some really, really incorrect, bad advice. Stuff like, never get a credit card. Investing is gambling. Or, and this was the top comment, and this is actually pretty alarming. I'm going to read this one out. The worst advice my mum ever gave me was wrongly explaining to me that people who earn just below a tax threshold sometimes choose not to accept pay increases, as doing so would cause them to earn less overall because they would be in a higher tax bracket. Now you may be thinking, who the hell would think that? Honestly, like that's the most bizarre thing in the world. But you'll be surprised at the people around you, your friends and potentially your family, that do not understand this stuff. It's hard to believe, it's hard to put yourselves in their shoes. I mean, to be honest, probably shouldn't say this, but I was actually talking about that comment in the car when I was with my girlfriend. And yeah, she doesn't understand how tax brackets work at all. So yeah, be wary that even your closest, nearest and dearest may not have a clue about this stuff. And it's not their fault. It's only because none of us talk about these things. So clearly, our parents have a hell of a lot that they can teach us, both good and bad. But when it comes to money, often their advice is, although given in good intentions, is skewed by their own experience and potentially their lack of knowledge. But on the flip side, there were some really great examples of how people's parents had taught them about the value of money and how grateful they were for having that head start in life. So I'm not really saying stop listening to your parents, full stop. All I'm trying to say is that take whatever they say with a pinch of salt. And as always, do your own research. Number 4, pensions, ISAs and LISAs. So if you don't know how pensions, ISAs and LISAs work and what they can do for you, I highly suggest that you go and find out right now. In fact, I've included 3 links down in the description so that you can actually go and work out exactly how these things work and how you can use them to your advantage. And obviously, the sooner that you learn that, the sooner you can start using them and the sooner that you can start getting ahead. In fact, why don't you just pause the video right now and go and find out. Wait, before you do that, just make sure that you like and subscribe because you're probably going to forget to come back. Number 5, pension contribution matching. So this is a tip that you can actually implement right now, and I highly suggest that you do if you're able to do it. Now, your company may give you the option of pension contribution matching, which means that they will match any contributions that you make to your pension up to a certain point, which basically means that you're doubling your money without doing anything. Just to give you an example of how fucking great this is, when I was working at HSBC, they had a standard pension contribution of 10% of my salary. And that's not 10% that's coming out of my salary, that's 10% that they were giving me on top of my salary. They then offered a further 7% of pension contribution matching. So if I then decided to put 7% of my salary into my pension, I would get another 7% on top. So I ended up with £1,000 a month being paid into my pension. And it was only costing me about £175. Honestly, guys, this is essentially free money, and it is absolutely amazing about the number of people that decide not to take this up. Now, this is either because they can't afford to give up maybe that £175 from their paycheck each month, and that is, totally fair enough. That's something you need to consider. But the other reason is mainly because pensions just get a really bad rap. Everyone thinks that pensions are a bit shit, but actually, they're fucking epic. And yes, I do realize what a loser I sound when I say that. If you're currently working and employed by somebody else, this is actually something that I want you to do right now. I've actually written an email template for you to copy from down in the description and send to your HR department, which is basically going to get them to tell you exactly what the benefits available are to you and whether you're taking them up or not. Now, when they respond, you're still going to have to work out whether this is right for you and whether you can afford to give up that little additional amount of take-home pay. But for most people, this is an absolute no-brainer. Number 6, find an app that works for you. When it comes to investing in stocks and shares, it's actually amazing how little knowledge and experience you need to get started and to have great success. I know it can seem very, very daunting when you first start out. The thought of investing in all these stocks and companies that you're never going to know, you're never going to touch, they're not tangible in any way. But the great thing is that nowadays there's so many apps and platforms that will do the vast majority of the hard work for you. And the most important thing is that you find an app or a platform that is going to fit into your life in a way that is going to encourage you to be interested and to save as much as you possibly can. Because ultimately the biggest factor in your success as an investor is not the amount of fees that you're being charged or even your investment returns. Ultimately, it all comes down to how much you can save, which is why it's so important to find something that suits you, that fits your lifestyle, that fits your level of experience, so that you're not afraid to keep on saving and keep on investing. In the last 5 or 6 years, there's been such a massive development in the offering of apps and platforms that are available for people, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. Now, at one end of the spectrum, you've got apps like Moneybox, Clio and Plum. Now, these are apps that are really targeted at beginners, people that have never invested before, people that had never thought of themselves as investors. These apps have really, really cool features that can help you to save more, and the choice of investments that you have to choose from is actually very, very limited, which is not actually a bad thing at all. It's kind of like going bowling and putting the guardrails up. It's very, very difficult to find yourself in the gutter and making big, big mistakes, which is a great thing if you're first starting out. Now, these are apps that are very much focused for beginners. But if you've got more knowledge and experience and you're looking to potentially build your own investment portfolios from investing in direct companies, then you've got things like Hargreaves Lansdown, Freetrade, Trading 212 that give you a lot more flexibility about the things that you can invest in. Now, do these tools with all their extra features and functionality give a chance of getting better returns? No, they don't. Whilst all of these tools and features do have their functions and they do have their uses, they're not really going to give you that much advantage over just using something simple like Moneybox that's just investing in an index fund. And to be honest, all these extra bells and whistles can really fuck you over if you don't use them properly. So if you're not feeling confident, you don't know what you're doing, it's probably actually best to just stick with something simple. The most important thing is that you find something that you like using and you find a strategy that fits in with your lifestyle. Because the real big thing that you want to make sure that you keep doing is that you keep saving and that you keep investing. If you're really, really interested in investing and you want to own individual companies, great, then find an app that's going to allow you to do that, because ultimately you being interested is going to help you to save more and more. But the big fear is that you start trying to use something that you don't know how to use, that you're not comfortable with using. And then you end up getting things wrong and you have a very bad experience, and that stops you from investing in the future. Number 7, take risk. Investing and taking risks are ultimately two peas in the same pod. If you want to invest, then you're going to need to take some risk. And ultimately, you need to be investing, because what is the alternative? Keeping money in cash, where the only thing that you're guaranteed is that the value of your savings are going to be eroded over time by inflation. The only way that you're going to be able to make sure that your savings and your money is working for you is by investing and is by taking some level of risk. Now, it's not just about taking any old risk. It's about taking calculated risks that you are comfortable with, where you're comfortable with not only the upside, but also the downside. To be honest, guys, investing should actually be pretty boring stuff. I mean, it's not an art, it's very much a science. And if you're following the rules correctly, it really shouldn't be that exciting. If you do find yourself getting really excited about an investment that you're about to make, then guess what? You're not investing, you're fucking gambling. Number 8, just start. The really big, important thing is that you just start investing as soon as you possibly can and you start learning. So just listen to this, and this will give you an idea of why I am so passionate about people investing in their 20s and 30s. This will just show you the power that comes with investing when you're young. So this is an example. So you've got Alice, who starts investing at 20 years old, and she's investing £5,000 a year until she's 30. Now, she keeps this money invested until she's 65 years old, but doesn't add anything else after those last 10 years. So in total, she's invested £50,000. And then you've got Ben, who starts investing when he's 30 years old. And again, he's investing £5,000 every year, exactly the same as Alice. But instead of stopping after 10 years, he keeps on investing every year until he's age 65. Now, this means that over his whole period of investing, he will have invested £175,000. Now, let's assume that they both invest in a diversified portfolio of low-cost index funds. They invest in exactly the same thing, and they get an average annual return of 7%, which is expected. Now, the question is, which one of them has more money at the age of 65? Alice, who was only investing for 10 years from the age of 20 and only invested £50,000 in total, or Ben, who was investing from the age of 30 to the age of 65, so for 35 years, and invested a total of £175,000. Which one of them ended up with the most money? Well, these are the results. I mean, what the actual fuck? Alice, who was investing for only 10 years, but started when she was 20 years old, has more money at the age 65 than Ben, who started 10 years later, but was investing for 35 years. Guys, this is an example of the power of compound interest. And this is something that you need to take advantage of, because you are young and you have a long future of investing ahead of you. But you can only take advantage of it if you start. So start investing as soon as you can. Guys, thank you very much for watching this video. I am only just starting out, but it is my very small number of subscribers. I think I've got 144 subscribers right now, and I am so thankful for you guys that have been sticking there watching every single video. This is a slightly different format, which means that I can actually produce these videos a lot quicker. So I'm trying something new out. Please let me know, give me your feedback. I'd be really interested to find out. I also have to say a big thanks to my friend Julian for lending me this amazing camera that's making me look so pretty. Well, I fucking hope I look good. If I don't look good, then I can just doctor it in editing afterwards, which is great. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a good day.